And welcome to Hangout Cafe. I'm so excited. Oh, this is going to be exciting. So, welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. If it's not your first time, welcome also. Now, hello, guest barristers. Welcome to Hangout Cafe on Zoom. How you guys? Are you ready? Ready for us?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. I'm sure you'll be great. Now, I would have done this, asked this person to introduce themselves, but I'm not going to because of time. So today we have three gentlemen, Shola Adeaga, Ade Ojomo, and Akin Olunloyo with us as guest barristers. They'll be speaking from the male perspective. And we have Tumi Ladele, Uju Aderemi, and Detola Phillips, and they will be speaking from a female perspective. I will try as best as I can not to be biased, even though I'm a woman. So I will try to be objective. Gentlemen and ladies, so to get us started, now, what is one thing that marriage has taught you that no one warned you about? Anyone can speak. What's one thing marriage taught you that no one warned you about? I can go on.
Oh, one thing, um, quite a few, but I'd say one thing would be always expect the unexpected.
Always expect the unexpected. Okay. To me,
Never think you know.
never think you know. True. Never make assumptions.
No assumptions, yeah.
Okay. To me,
I would say dying to self. Definitely dying to self.
dying to
That's
self. Okay. Ade,
We won't we will not always be happy.
say that again.
We will not always be happy.
You will not always be happy.
We will
Okay.
not always be happy.
Okay. Okay. Uju,
Oh, I'm unmuted. Don't know what I'm doing. Life is tough, but there is joy.
life is tough with it. Okay. Uh, Doc,
I think mine would be having to think for the other person. So not just thinking for yourself, but having to constantly think for the other person or put into consideration the other person.
okay. Titola.
Mine is definitely that marriage can make you holy if you let it.
If you what?
If you let it, if you allow it,
Marriage can make you holy.
holy. Yes.
I like
I
that.
thought it was all about love. But,
Oh my goodness. I like that. Really, marriage can make you.
Can I change mine?
No, you can't.
I thought the
Please,
question,
please,
but
can
I,
I change mine? But
Can
I
I
just
change
realized
mine too?
but I thought the question was, what has marriage taught
the
you?
one
Taught you.
thing
Yes, one thing that no one warned you about. Yeah.
about marriage.
Yes.
So can I change mine?
No, you can't change yours.
Please,
I
just
beg, obviously.
please. That my own is that I thought school ended with university. I didn't realize I was going to school for life.
I think that's what I meant when I said life is tough, as in it's the university of life.
Okay. If you had to describe marriage in just one word now, so one word. Now think carefully. One word. If you had to describe marriage in one word, what would it be? And you're not allowed to change your mind once you've spoken. So, one word. Ade,
Understanding.
understanding. Thank you. Um, uh, Uju,
Journey.
journey. Okay. Akin,
Forever.
forever. How sweet. Your wife is here, isn't she?
She's not. I've got free reign today.
To me,
Sweet.
sweet. Okay. Doc?
The joy of togetherness.
One word.
One
Oh,
One
word.
one
word.
word. Okay,
Pastor Doc.
togetherness.
Togetherness. Detola.
Commitment.
Commitment. We've got a few here. People have put commitment, humbling, patience, a daily choice. Well, one word we said, but daily choice. Someone put journey, patience, sacrifice. It is fulfilling is another fulfilling. Okay, classroom. It's a classroom. Interesting. From
Oh
oh,
no,
your wife is here. She said she's here.
she's not in the house.
Selflessness. Oh, she's not in the house. Selflessness, best friend. Oh, how sweet. So I want to start today with a question that I asked last week, but seems to have gone, let me use the word viral in that sense, because I posted a clip that where Ade Ojomo was responding to the question on our Instagram page. And I think we have almost 9,000 views now. And people have been having conversations about it on the on our Instagram page. And I just one of the things I did said, which I missed when he was talking, because we had technical challenges last week. So when he was speaking, I missed it. But one of the things he said in responding to this question about respect was that some wives, not all, some wives they respect other men and their pastors more than their husbands. In fact, I had a conversation with a gentleman, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, and he was so adamant. He was like, yes, all women do it. And I said, no, I don't agree. So I thought I'll ask the men, you're not allowed to respond to this. It's the women. Women, I want you to defend your female folks. Is it true that we women respect other men? Well, some respect other men more than our husbands, and also respect the pastors more than our husbands. Is it true?
Sister Vuke, before they answer the question, let me just rephrase. What I actually said was, you said define respect. And the definition of respect is if you, as a wife, are respecting any other man more than your wife, then that is not respect, and vice versa. If a husband is respecting any other woman rather than his wife,
Yeah.
then that's not respect. So
Yeah.
that's what I said.
Okay.
Just to
And then you
give
use
that.
the example of
Oh yeah, I get it. I use a case of somebody that similar to you, a guy that came up to you,
yeah.
similar to the guy coming up to me as well. So thank you.
Okay, so women, Detola, Uju, and Tumi, do you agree? Well, a few people have said yes, it's true, and these are women that are saying it's true in the chat box. Tumi,
I think for me, context is really important here. I can't generalize. With the pastors, as the shepherd of a flock, there will always be that respect.
yeah,
But I think women, respect begets respect. So if you respect one another, like Mr. Unlawyer said the last time, to say you respect each other, that's fine. But when some women might find it hard to respect their husbands if they are not shown respect. So it'll be hard to respect someone who doesn't respect you. And I see respect of having other regards for others' feelings or wishes, thinking about the other person, like Pastor Shola said, putting the other person into consideration is what I see as respect. So I think if it's equal or if it's given, to whom much is given, much is expected, you respect your husband, he respects you. So men don't respect their wives. And then the one that respect, like Mr. Jones, regardless of whether or not, there's a conducive environment, you want to respect. But there's no respect given to the wife. It's hard to give respect to who doesn't respect you, is what I will say. So that
okay,
might be the instance.
okay, okay. Let me before I give Detola. Thank you to me. Thanks to me.
I think Ade is right. The women are right. Some women do show more respect to their pastors or spiritual overseers than to their husband. And I'm using respect in a general context there. But also there are women who probably defer more to their pastors than to their husbands. Should that be the case? I don't think so. I think a woman or wife should respect her husband regardless of whether it's hard, it's tough, but regardless of whether he respects her or not, a wife is called to respect her husband. God said, respect your husband. So argue with God. If the man is not respecting you, go report him to God. There's a respect that is due to our spiritual overseers.
Yeah.
Because they have spiritual responsibility for us, shepherds and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think if push comes to shove and there's an issue, as long as it's biblical, as long as it's in line with God, I think deference needs to be to your own husband.
Okay. Thank you very much. Uju?
I do agree with both of my female counterparts there, because the truth is that there's context. I think maybe what is this respect in quotes that people are referring to is that which comes from spiritual authority. Most of us have grown up with the background that vicar, pope, pastor, whoever has spiritual authority is basically next to God in a sense. And yes, I know that that should not be the case. God, but I think that's the reverence that's giving in that context. People who have, and then someone put on the chart that it's a Nigerian lingo, see finish, familiarity breeds contempt. And all of that comes into consideration. So for instance, and I would say that some of those acts of perceived disrespect may be there may be one-offs rather than something that's embedded. So it may be, oh, I've seen the pastor and I defer to the pastor at that point in time.
Right.
I mean, I don't live with the pastor. So taking that as a general thing is basically taking it out of context, because you don't see the pastor all the time. You see the pastor or whoever. And in this case, pastor refers to vicar or whatever. But I know that it's the Pentecostal context. It's people that you see once in a while and you give them. And I would challenge back and say that's often the same with men as well. The people who they don't see every day, when they see people outside, you hope that your husband is respectful to people. So he will greet them, right? And so that's a one-off thing. And bringing it into everyday life, it's different. But when it occurs, regularly every day, that's an issue. But of course, as Tim says, some women may do that. Maybe the pastor gives them respect, the vicar or everything, and their husband does not give them the consideration. And in this case, we're talking about consideration as well. So that's what I would say. My answer is context specific. Is it right? It's not right, but not everything in life is right, And so, but I often see that tends to become such an issue. Is vice versa as well. The men also are guilty of that. I've seen some men who in church are treating other women better than perceived.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Regardless of whether the man is treats you well or not, because it's biblical, should you still respect him regardless? I know it may be difficult, but yes, Tumi, go on.
I have Ephesians 5:21. It says, submit to one another in fear of God. So we've talked about respecting. It's in the Bible. It's also in the Bible to respect one another.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't lie. This is a safe space, right? We're being truthful.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
To ask someone who doesn't respect you even with kids, our kids respect us because we are their parents, but also they do not fear us if you have a relationship with your children. Respect in times can be changed. So you can fear your husband and respect him in that way of, okay, this is what the Bible says, but it's not natural. So you're not being taken care of, you're looked down on. You're saying, oh, because God said so. Inside you, trust me, God knows that you detest this man. And that is what counts. So you're there, on the periphery, talking about this respect thing, showing and saying, I'm quoting the scripture, but you are broken. It's hard. It's tough. I can't ask people to do that, even if the Bible says so. I'm sorry. Our God is love, is kind. I don't think, and the God of relationship, I don't think it's like irrespective. If you are dying there, he's treating you. Just keep respecting him. I'm praying that one day he just wakes up and starts respecting you. No, 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 no.
Thank you, thank you, Tumi. Yes, somebody just put in the chat box that respect is a two-way street. Absolutely. Okay, now one of the gentlemen, just one of you, please, do you want to answer or chip in to this respect thing before we move on quickly? Anyone?
Maybe I should. And I think, first of all, I agree completely with Tumi in terms of context. I think context is very, very important. But first of all, to say that it's not fair to compare your relationship with your pastor or shepherd in a spiritual context with your husband, because they're two completely different things. And for most people, I would imagine that for a woman, for example, it's the honor, like Uju said, it's both a cultural and religious background. It's the honor that you give to your shepherd or your spiritual head. Whereas when it comes to the home, I think context is very, very critical. I am a total believer in Ephesians 5:21. I think respect is mutual. And out of that comes the submission that the Bible talks about in verse 22. Because I always say to people, verse 21 comes first, verse 22. And so I think I would certainly agree with those who have said that it's very, very contextual in the sense that if you treat your wife as you should, then it begets respect and honor. Whereas if you don't, and yeah, it'll be very difficult to expect somebody to respect you or honor you if you're not treating her as a man should treat a woman.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. So there are lots of questions going on in the chat box, but we will go there. If not, we will be here all day. I want to ask next question, gentlemen and ladies. I was going to say gentle ladies. Should marriage be 50-50? Let me explain. The question was, so in a marriage, you split things. So we're splitting the rent, we're splitting the school fees, we're splitting everything. Should it be 50-50 in a relationship? Anyone can start off? Akin,
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the marriage should be balanced. So it might not be 50-50 in all areas, but you could have a 60-40 for a guy, 40-60. So ultimately, when everything comes together, it's balanced. So, I mean, there were questions that came up last week about about being the provider and all that stuff, and we described how provision is not always money.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, I always believe that in my house, we look at our strengths. Who is stronger in which area? So it doesn't matter, it doesn't if I'm the guy and I'm the best cook, most of the times I'll end up cooking. I'm not saying I'll cook all the time,
yeah,
but I'll cook. If you're the lady and you love driving, you might just be the one who wants to drive. I just think it needs to be balanced. A marriage should be balanced, not 50-50 in all areas, but balanced.
Good. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I think I can say though. I think that the what do you call it? The divide is going to be different from marriage to marriage in terms of all the different spheres of marriage, from finances to all different aspects. For example, even the finance, generally people say, yeah, the man should be the provider, the man is responsible for finance. But in some marriages, the man hasn't any clue about how to handle finances, and it's probably the wife. And in that relationship, there may be an agreement. And that's why, one of the advice I was given is never compare your marriage to someone else. The fact that in someone else's marriage, the woman is charging finance doesn't mean the guy is, as we say, a mumu. No, it's because they have a common agreement that for this marriage to last and for our children to get the best in life, I think you should handle the finances and vice versa. I mean, there are different areas. I mean,
But it's one thing
Everyone,
to because we're talking. This question was specific about finances. So
even finances, it would differ from from couple to couple in terms of who is more astute in managing finances.
yeah, but
So
what
it would
I'm saying
differ.
is that it's different if one person is in charge of finances. But I'm talking about. So is it the wife? Is it 50-50 in terms of, let's say, rent contribution or school fees, or how grocery shopping and all of that?
Again, I'll stick to my answer. I don't think, if you're truly intimate, you should be discussing about 50-50. I think I mean, as the finances, some people, like, I remember when the pastor came in and said we should have, husband and wife should have all their finances in one pot, and then all the expenditure is based on that. Some people are comfortable with that. Some people are not comfortable. So to start describing 50-50 probably is not a good way of looking at it. I think from couple to couple,
Oh,
how they handle the finances will be something that they've discussed. You understand? So, for example, if you have a situation where the wife is not working, she's just at home, and the husband is the one working. So obviously, in that scenario, 100%, whether he likes it or not, he has to. But let me put it to you that even in some marriages where the wife is working, the husband may decide, you know what, I really dig into this concept of me being the provider. You keep your money, like Ade, what's her name? Yamo Adutola said that the woman's money is hers, the man's money is what's used to look after the husband. Some people are comfortable with that. So it depends on what works. So I think saying 50-50 probably, to me, doesn't work really. I don't think
but
there should
some
be.
people believe that, especially the younger ones. I think
Oh
some
yeah,
of
but
them
if it
believe that.
work, if it's going to make them happy and makes the marriage survive, then they can go for it. But at the end of the day, whatever percentage, as long as it doesn't hinder the going concern of the marriage, then it's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Can the ladies, sorry, before you,
Can I,
the ladies, yes,
can I,
data.
yeah, can I say something to that? And it's a question that I've heard so many times. And I think for me, in a marriage, ideally, and I will speak about ideal, and hopefully by God's grace, I'm speaking from what I feel, I believe God wants us, how God wants us to operate. I think when we talk about finances in marriage, it's not really about the maths,
Mm.
because if we start doing maths, it is going to be unfair to
Mm.
whoever is earning less. It doesn't matter. It might be the man that is actually bringing in less. So let's assume in a situation where the man is bringing in less and you want to split everything down 50-50. That is unfair.
Yeah.
But how do you then, if you want to then sit down and start looking at figures, you probably will spend your whole relationship trying to figure out figures. So for me, it is not about the mathematics here. It is about the mindset. It is not even about, I hear you, people say, some people say, put all your money into one pot. But we immediately always think about a physical pot. It doesn't have to be a physical pot. It doesn't have to be one bank account. My husband and I, we have two separate bank accounts. We have one bank account. But the point is, there is one mindset. There's an us paradigm when we think about money. So I don't subscribe to my money is mine and your money is ours. In my marriage, my money is ours and your money is ours. It is just that the money is coming into this pot that is somewhere through two people. The amount that is coming in differs at different, it has differed at different times of our marriage. Sometimes I was earning nothing at one point, but the money he earned was ours, and I was actually managing the finances. And in making purchases, we discuss and we agree. I don't feel I have the authority to spend money. I mean, we had a discussion and we sort of like early on when we were newly married, the agreement was the ceiling was £100. If you want to spend more than £100, we'll discuss it and we'll agree. And if we both don't agree, it doesn't matter whose account is coming from. If one account is going down, the other person can go into the other account and shift money across. We have a conversation. So the money is not mine. The money is ours. is just sitting in individual accounts. So for me, that whole thing about 50-50 can't happen. It has to be 100-100.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's what I think.
Thanks a lot, Detola. Yes, Doc. I can see you.
I'm actually very worried about this whole um, conversation and the trend going along the 50-50. And the reason is that I think we've got to be careful. I know you said, and we know that it's actually more common amongst young people, but I'm worried because the whole concept of 50-50 makes the marriage contractual. And we've got to be very careful. Because the moment you start to go along the lines of a contractual thing, 50, it has nothing to even to do with the monies and stuff like that. It's the, like Detola said, the mindset, the essence of the marriage. Because the moment you start to go down the lines of contractual, you're eroding the essence of marriage, the sacrifice, the being sacrificial, the love, the things that matter. If the Bible says the two become one, what it essentially means, you give all of yourself, the other person gives all of themselves. That's my understanding of what the marriage is about. So introducing 50-50 now starts to erode that concept and then makes it all contractual. So I think I'm really worried about this 50-50 thing, seriously.
I guess we'll now have to start in the, what's that thing called, prenuptial, before you get married.
Which is what happens a lot in the world. And I was actually going to say this, that, part of the thing is we're allowing the ethos of the world to come into the kingdom. It's not a kingdom principle. You don't find it anywhere in the Bible that God says you bring 50-50. So I think, yeah, I'm really worried.
That's why we're here, to learn. And because people might not know. And there are lots of people out there, especially in this social media age, where people are saying things and the younger ones may not know. So thank you, guest barristers, for
Can I just say, Doc, I think I'm glad Sister Funke brought this question, because I remember it's not just the young ones. I remember when I came to the UK many years ago, and I heard this concept. I think I went out for dinner, and then when it came for the bill, the way we were brought up in Nigeria, you pay everything, and then the person said, "No, let's split the bill," and I was looking like, "Split what?" So it's not even, it's a concept that's generally done in the UK. I mean, so
but people are, I'm sure, please, especially the Gen Z or millennials, if they're here, they're going to say that's probably old-fashioned now. That some people say they don't mind splitting the bill. I personally think, especially if you're a man, you invite me out, why should we split the bill?
But I think I agree with what Doc and Detola are saying. I think it's more the mindset, getting that mindset right, that marriage is not a 50-50 thing. It's a concept whereby you have one mindset. If you go out and you want to divide it, but as long as your mindset is that this money is for the marriage, it's not contractual, as Doc has quite eloquently explained. So it's a mindset thing.
To me, you've got your hands up.
I think just to round it off, it's just someone said in the comments, which is why I agree with, is that it comes from a place of distrust or mistrust. The whole thing we're talking about here is from a marriage that is safe, a marriage where you look out for one another, which you don't have a business marrying someone you don't trust in the first place anyways. But if something's happened and where the woman is like, obviously we're not on the same page and they have problems, then that starts to, let me keep my money, your money. So I think that is from that place of distrust and division. But I agree with what Pastor Shola said and Sister Detola.
Thank you, Tumi, for rounding it up nicely. Thank you. I talked about having prenuptials. Someone just asked, are you saying that Christians shouldn't have prenups?
No.
I am saying, based on my opinion, that I don't think you should. Nah. I don't know what you guest barristers think. I think it's just going back to, anyway, one person to round it up nicely. If you agree that they shouldn't, maybe I'm wrong. I think they shouldn't, but maybe, does anybody think that they should?
I think again, this is this biblical principle and kingdom culture. If a Christian couple yeah, want to follow the world's culture. And they both agree in this area, we don't want to follow kingdom culture and biblical principles. We want to follow the world culture. Yes, absolutely. They can have a prenuptial. It's an agreement between both. They are entering into their marriage on a contract.
Yeah.
And there's, as Tumi said, there's already a presumption that things are going to break up. We're going to go our different ways, and I'm going to need to sign something to say you can't take my money.
Okay.
It's already a decision to say we may not be one as we journey on this thing. But if a Christian couple goes into marriage and decide together and by the help of the Holy Spirit, by God's grace, because this thing is not easy. It is not by our power or our might. So if it is by God's grace and together say, okay, we want to follow God's ways. We want kingdom culture, biblical principle. I don't agree that you should sign a prenuptial.
So it's either you follow kingdom culture or the world's culture.
You can't say anything.
Yeah, you can. Now she's gone on to say that, excuse me, how do you safeguard those who have been exploited financially in marriage? Because the reality is people have been exploited. Anyone want to address that?
Just to add to what Sister Detola said, I think we have to be mindful that not everybody on this call is a Christian. So I will say that by all means, get your prenuptial if that gives you peace of mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the mentality, like Sister Detola said, it's a contract. Make sure that I safeguard myself. That mindset has to be there from the very beginning, which I was imagine that both parties are on the same wavelength. Do you understand what I'm saying? Especially if somebody has more to lose. So I would say, for them, do that. But as you said, with Christians, you're thinking this is forever. And even some Christians don't get the forever, and you enter into a marriage, you want it to be forever. And then you enter into marriage with a woof. And then, what happens is that you're now thinking, I should have gotten the prenuptial. But for me, Christians, biblical principles. But if you're not a Christian, please, by all means, get your prenuptial and secure your future.
But some of the comments I've seen is that now it's like taking out an insurance, that you take out life insurance. So why can't you have prenup?
Well, for that one, I would say also when you take out your life insurance, you take out life insurance with men, right? They don't give you a surety of life, right? It's the same concept. It's faith. You take out your life insurance with God. You take out your life insurance in the, what's the word? Life insurance, they'll pay out your people, right? So yeah, go on, take off your prenuptial, your marriage fails, you keep your things. We're not saying that is wrong or right.
Uju, we can't hear you. I don't know.
Really?
Okay, now go on. You can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe you heard what was important. Yeah. So it's kind of like God-based and life-based. Your insurance, your life insurance, they pay out to your family, right? And then you have your eternal assurance. And then it like they have said, I was about to say like colleagues, like my sisters have said, it is, there are two parts to say. At the end of the day, we're not trying to take away people's choices. We're giving our own perspective. So at the end of the day, the choice is yours. Nobody assures you that you wake up tomorrow. That's why you take life insurance. So if you choose that, my marriage, I want my thing. That's fine. There's no wrong thing. So long as Detola said, you both agree and it's fine. But as Christians, we know what our belief is.
Okay.
Right.
Doc, you wanted to say something? Okay, Doc first then.
So life insurance and prenuptials are definitely not the same things at all. In fact, the concepts are totally different. So with the life insurance, it's actually a selfless thing because you're not taking insurance for yourself. You're taking for the benefit of the people after you. You're thinking of people so they don't suffer after you. They're not the same. Prenuptial is thinking about you. And like I said about this 50-50 thing, it's introducing a very, very mechanical concept into marriage that should not be. It's a transactional concept. To what I actually wanted to speak into was when somebody said, because how do you protect people who have been exploited? I always say, don't allow the dysfunctions of one person to make you dysfunctional. So the fact that some people have been dysfunctional in not doing what is right should now not make you now end up doing something that is not right. I think let's understand what is right, what God expects in a marriage, and then let's try our best. It will not always work, as we know. And where, I mean, the circumstances will differ from situation to situation. Where things don't work that way, unfortunately, didn't. But what is the path that we should be challenging ourselves, encouraging ourselves to follow? It's still that selfless. You know, when we were talking about prenuptials earlier, I thought the agreement you sign is forever. What's that? How do you say that's your prenuptial, for better, for worse. That's your prenuptial.
Sickness and health.
Yeah.
Richer for poorer.
Yeah, and it's if you think about it, it's a selfless, the other person kind of prenuptial, as compared to this worldly prenuptial where you're just thinking about how do I protect myself, how do I da da da. That in itself is already a recipe for a marriage that is not going to work.
Sister Funke,
Yes.
the reason why this topic is quite interesting is that if you look at all the previous questions that were asked on this particular episode, it boils down to the choices, and the question is, what standard of choices are you going to use? So when it comes to finances, I'm sorry if people, and I like Tumi, you said they're Christians and they're non-Christians on the call, so so we need to speak in a language that both sets understand. So it's about the standards you choose to follow. So for those on the call as Christians, we have to follow, as Doc said, kingdom principles. Is it easy? Of course not. And that's where grace comes in. Even with the grace, sometimes we still fall short.
Yeah.
And for those that don't believe in the kingdom principles, they are going to follow the standards that they think is correct for them. But experience will teach you that whatever choice you make, there are consequences. And those consequences.
May I say that the
Okay,
people asking these questions, they are all Christians.
Oh, no, I'm just speaking for sides. So I'm just saying at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we have a set of standards which we have to follow as Christians. So as Christians, these standards they may not be easy to follow. As Tumi said in the example she gave, how does a wife respect a husband that doesn't respect her? If you're going to make a decision as a wife, say, you know what, I'm not going to respect this guy until he respects me. At the end of the day, what does the Bible say a wife should do? And vice versa, what does the Bible say a husband should do? Both of you will be accountable in the future. And, God is not going to say because your husband or because your wife behaved in a certain manner, that gives you the license to do what you're doing. So we just need to bear that in mind, that the standards we have to follow. And like Doc quite rightly said, prenuptial is not a Christian principle. It's definitely not. Question is, as a Christian, if you're doing that, if God says it's okay, well, I doubt whether he will, but we have a standard.
I guess like you've all said in one way or the other, at the end of the day, it's your choice. And it's what you want to, you either follow the kingdom principle or you follow the world culture. But and Detola said it, you can't have both. But let's move on. I can
just say one little thing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you said the kingdom and the worldly and all, but the funny thing also is that marriage in itself is based on trust.
Yeah.
You understand? So I've seen marriages that are not kingdom marriages. You understand? But the trust I've seen within those couples has been mind blowing. So many times I think it's that thing where not knocking out the Christian part of it for a second. I think is that part where, you actually, it's almost like you make a conscious decision that this is what I am going to do. I have committed my life to. Now, it's not by power and might, I agree. And that's why even as Christians, even when we commit, some things go wrong. So that's why I look at it, that initially there should be that foundation where I choose to commit my life to. We're talking about two imperfect people coming together. You understand?
Yeah.
That means that before I even start, I in my mind, I'm making up my mind that I'm accepting those imperfections before I even step into it. Some things are gonna happen I'm not gonna like. Some things are gonna happen that I'll love.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that we're in this together to make it work. I mean that's my.
Do you you know what? Sorry, Uju, before you speak, something just dropped in my mind because I was reading what somebody said about a lot of things not covered by the Bible, blah, blah, blah. And then thinking about this prenup thing, I just remembered the daughters of Zelophehad. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. Now, remember when Moses gave them the right to own their father's land, right? Then there was a case where some of the people came and said, if they marry other men from other tribes, then the land will be taken. And then God said to Moses,
They're
let
right.
they marry from within them so as to protect their property. What do you guys think about that?
As in the context of this
Yeah,
prenup of
yeah,
discussion. No,
yeah.
I think it's actually quite simple. It was the fact that if you think about it geographically, so God had divided the land through amongst the tribes and all that.
Mhm.
And the whole idea, and it's also the concept of Jubilee. If you remember in Jubilee, that in the time of Jubilee, if you sold your land, it returns to you. So if you look at it geographically, let's say, for example, this tribe had, I'm just using figures, 50 acres of land. Another tribe had 50 acres of land. Now, they're supposed to marry between themselves, so you retain your land.
Yeah.
If you had the what I don't know what the English word is, but basically it was to protect the integrity of land because there's the danger that if one tribe only had women and they had to marry men from other what's it called, all the land in that tribe will eventually now be in another tribe. You literally obliterate the other tribe. So I think it's a totally different concept in terms of God was wanting to protect the integrity of the different tribes and their geographical landscape.
Okay.
I think I'll relate that to someone who just mentioned, what if you do it for you're going to a second marriage
Yeah.
and you have entered into a prenup from the first to protect your I guess the
Asset.
stuff you have
Yeah.
for your children. I think that's okay. Sorry.
Uju.
That might be very
So that was
carnal.
so Pastor Funke, I wanted to really relate this to a personal thing because I mean we stand from the viewpoint of Christianity and that's why we're giving views, right? But there's nothing here that ties anybody down, or I don't want it to seem like we're condemning people. I
No.
have a couple of friends who are divorced, very like my sisters. And if a couple of them went into another marriage,
Yeah.
right? And they said to me that they're getting a prenup, I will 100% support them.
Mm. It's gone off again, Uju.
And that can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I wanted to protect you from the noise around. That's why I had a headphone. So Christian that I am doesn't take anything away from me being and as Christians, sometimes we make some decisions that are not biblically sound. I think at the end of the day, what we have done here is say, this is what the Bible says, right? And this is the kingdom principle that we want to align by. We're
Mm.
not in any way condemning anyone who makes a choice
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
otherwise. I think I just wanted to bring that out because some of the comments that are coming on the question, 100% people, if I got married and I had a disastrous marriage and I was going into another marriage, tendency is that I will probably, depending on what it is, I don't know, but if I want to safeguard things for my children, of course, there are all those living contracts and trusts and everything. But I think the perception of what a prenuptial is saying, if we go our separate ways, this you take yours and I take, or whatever it is, whatever those conditions are. So that presumes already that there will be a separation of ways. But on the other hand, it may not. What am
Mm.
I saying? We just don't want to condemn anyone. We do have a responsibility as Christians to live by Christian principles. And at the end of the day, as people have said, it's context, it's choice, and we will, and yeah, to each his own. I think I just wanted to say that loud and clear.
Thank you so much.
Just to say, Uju, I don't think it's so much condemnation as guidance, because to because we're human beings, we can be motivated quite a number of times, and unfortunately, past experiences tend to influence decisions. But I think it's just the guidance, because if you've been in a previous marriage where you were abused and da 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 da, and then you go into a second marriage, I think it's already unfair on the second person you're married. If you take the mindset of the previous one, we're human, yeah, and but you take it into so because of your experience, you now don't trust the man you're getting into your second marriage with. It's already a recipe for disaster, because if you don't trust because of your past hurts, then you're not being fair to the person that you're getting into. So all I'm saying that it's not condemnation; it's just trying to guide as to yeah.
And the thing is,
100%.
at the end
I,
of the day, I don't think you'll be
sorry.
condemned by God by if you have a prenup or whatever. Yeah.
Sorry, just
Just
I know
say
we've gone off for
something.
too long. Oh, sorry. You were going to say
Sorry,
that.
can I just say something? And lots of conversations been going on in the chat. I was trying to catch up with it. And I think whether it's a second marriage or a first marriage or whatever, I think I don't know, I feel let's take it back to the basics. When two people come together in marriage, what they're actually doing, they're saying, I want to join my life with yours.
Mm-hmm.
I want to join my soul. When we go into I don't want to stray now, but sexual intimacy connotes something even deeper than just the physical coming together. I'm giving you my whole self as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that is about me, I'm giving to you, but I can't give you my money. And I'm going to protect my asset from you. I think there's something there that we just need to check that again, back to kingdom principle, world principles. If I'm going to give myself to you and I can't give my money to you, I need to rethink whether I should be getting married to you. And like I said, we're not condemning anyone, but we're just saying, I just, every question that I've seen in that, I'm just thinking about, we're here to encourage each other and actually try and help each other understand. Okay, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm practicing 100%. It's hard. I'm just saying every day my decision or my thinking is, which one do I want to follow? Do I mix it sometimes? Yes. But there's a repentance. So again, we talk about Christians. When we say Christians, what do we mean by that? Are we saying people who say they're Christians, or people who go to church, or people who, what do we mean? To me, a Christian is someone who wants to follow God's principles, who has decided, I am following God, and I'm following what God says. Well, I miss it, I come back, I repent. So I think there's something about, anyway, I'll leave it there. But I think it's the thing to ponder on when
Okay,
people ask questions. I want to marry, but I'm going to part of physical things, but I can give you my soul.
I respectfully disagree, studies. I think that is the ideal. That's what everybody wants, you know. But at the end of the day, things happen, life happens, and I am all for get the prenuptial if you're going to enter it, so that way you protect yourself. Not because there's people that are actually not Christians who are prenuptial and they are together forever. And I think prenuptial is just, I will come take what I brought in with me. Not, you know, so I think for people that are going to a second marriage, because that's what most of the questions are about, going to a second marriage, you want to protect what you have for your kids, or going forward. So, just being.
Okay, let's move on. Gone on. So next, thank you, folks. Thank you so much to the guest barristers and everyone that's having conversation on the side. Thank you. Question: what kills a marriage faster? Criticism or stepping up? And I'll explain what this question, I think this is what the person is saying. So, you know, sometimes a man or woman may say that this person is always criticizing me in terms of, so fix this, or are you going to do that? But they don't do that. So the question is, what kills a marriage faster? Is it criticism that the person is criticizing you, or because you're not stepping up?
Stepping up. Not stepping.
Do you guys understand the question?
Criticism or feedback? Is it feedback or criticism or stepping up? Oh, feedback or criticism or feedback?
Criticism or not stepping up. Sorry, not stepping up. So as in, if you're stepping up to do what you're supposed to do, then I will not be on your back. Do you understand?
Mm.
So do you guys understand that question? Yeah, okay. Ade is the only person that doesn't. Doc, do you understand that question?
I think so. I'm coming around to it.
Okay.
So is it to say maybe not what kills marriages as which one is
Likely.
more
Detrimental.
no, I don't even want to use the word devastating, but which one is worse? Is
Okay,
it
which one is worse? Yes, which one is worse?
is it the person that is criticizing or the person that
Person
is
not
not
stepping
stepping?
up. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a question. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think both are worse. I don't think because again, if we follow the guidelines of the person who created marriage, one of the things that we are encouraged to do is I'm trying to remember how the Bible puts it, to make allowances for each other's faults. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that we don't do enough of in marriages. Yeah, so I'm not stepping up. Um, if you want to encourage me to step up, it's not by criticizing me.
Mm.
It's by encouraging me. It's by challenging me. And there are ways that one can do that in a way that it's by being empathetic and coming alongside. Why am I not stepping up? And all that. And again, in all our conversations, I think it's mindful. Tumi said this right at the beginning. Let's always put things in context. There'll be different scenarios and stuff. So I think both are not good, and we should, in our different wherever it is we fall, whether I'm the person that's not stepping up and you are the person that's criticizing. I think the whole essence of stepping up is that you want me to play my part and do that. So I should encourage myself to step up. On the other hand, if you want the other person to step up, I don't think criticizing the person is right. I think it's to be gentle and make allowances and vice versa. So I don't think any one of them is right like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Anyone else wants to?
I think Doc said it all.
He said it all. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next
And
question.
sorry,
Oh,
before we
Tumi.
go to next, I totally agree with Pastor Doc. I also think that it's objective. So the person might actually see the encouragement and probably the person is going always speaking about it, and they might see it as criticism.
Okay.
It's subjective. Someone else might see you constantly telling me what to do as criticism. I would say criticism is saying it in a rude way, but someone who's sensitive might see it as criticism, as in it comes off when you're always telling me what to do. It is criticism to them. So I think we should also just be mindful that it can be subjective as to what the encouragement and the telling can be seen as. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Okay. Before marriage, because we're talking about unpacking our expectations now. So let's go back. Let's answer some of those questions. Before marriage, what were some unspoken expectations you brought in, and how did they play out in real life? So what were some of the expectations you had about your marriage or marriages before you came in, and how did they play out in real life? Are those expectations met? Why you're laughing? You're laughing. Even
I thought of something which was what made me laugh. I don't guess I'm talking all the time.
okay, share it.
My mom is a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So my dad did everything. So I just entered marriage thinking I was this princess who my husband will do everything for me. And I remember we had someone come visit to us, and the person said, "Man, to me, you're just living the life. You're such a well-kept woman." And I was there giggling when they left. So he said, "You're unemployed, dude. You're unemployed. You're not a welcome man. Go and look for a job." So I think for me was the fact that I wasn't going to be this stay-at-home mom, I figured out in my head. And for him was like, you have all these giftings, I have all this, you can't just stay at home. And yeah, that's how I found out that I wasn't a well-kept wife. I was just unemployed and I had to go for a job. So yeah.
For me, please don't laugh at what I'm going to say, but I actually thought that entering a marriage that me and my wife would not argue. So I actually thought that, and I remember my uncle. I remember we were at my uncle's house. I think I was hugging Fulala, the romance and stuff like that. And he called me aside and he said to me, it's not always going to be like that. And of course, I just given my life then. So all the cliches, God forbid, the grace of God will be upon me. I started saying all that. And he just looked at me and said, okay, no problem. Of course, getting married from day one, the argument started. And I remember one day when the argument got heated, I said, Fulala, do you remember what my uncle said? I said, you know what? When he gave me that advice, I should have actually kept quiet. I shouldn't have answered because everything that he said is actually happening now because he didn't argue with me. He just looked. And this is a guy that had been married for 25 or more years at that point in time. And he was just telling me from experience. So one thing I've learned is that, you know what? When somebody that has more experience than you is talking, regardless of whether the person is a Christian or not, you just need to listen because he has certain experiences that you've never gone through. I mean, for me, just getting married now, it sounds silly now because when I look back at it, that me and my wife will never argue. We'll continue to love. I'll be hugging her and all that. Of course, it was, you know how it is before you get married. You think that's how it's going to be. So that's mine.
I mean, like I just said, it's an interesting one because you look back now and you think that it's really silly. I used to think that, when I get married, that's, telepathy will be, on a high level. That I don't even need to speak, you will know what I'm thinking. But you learn very quickly that it's not like that.
It's not like that.
I was one of those ones at Mills and Boone. Oh my gosh. So I thought marriage was, I thought I was going to fall in love. We were going to fall in love with each other, get married, and live happily ever after. Like romance and all the works all the time. I think 2 weeks, I woke up really quickly that, nah, it's not like that.
They sold you the wrong novel.
I'll tell you a joke, and this is, I mean, my husband and I joke about it now. But again, my husband is not, he's lovely and everything, but the romance that I read in the books is not what is playing out in real life. But he shows me his love in so many other different ways. But when we first got married, because of how it took 1 week or 2 weeks, we had come here and we were walking to the tube station, and I put out my hand to hold him, and he was like PDA. I mean, he's a lot better now. He shrunk by it. I felt somebody touched him with a hot hand, hot coal. I was like, no. He doesn't like the way all these other people, are all over themselves in public. He doesn't want to do that. And we had our first fight 2 weeks about holding hands. Now he's like grabbing my hands to hold it when we're out together. But yeah, it was just a sort of like, oh, okay, it's not Wilson Boone. This is real life.
Is that?
I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because even though those were expectations you had before marriage, 10 years, 30 years later, those expectations are coming to pass. So it's a time thing, isn't it?
Don't you realize when you're also telling the younger ones, giving them advices, it may not necessarily be about marriage, it may be about other things, and they think that they know more than you, and you say, okay,
exactly.
I do exactly what my uncle says. I go, okay, we'll see.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Another question. Have you ever felt disappointed in your marriage? Not because, and now, folks, guest barristers, you can pass. You don't have to answer some of these questions, so you can pass. Have you ever felt disappointed in marriage, not because your spouse did something wrong, but because you expected something different? And how did you deal with it? So the question again, Have you ever felt disappointed in marriage? Not because your spouse did something wrong, but because you expected something different. And how did you deal with it?
Mhm. I can speak to that, and I think this is the reality. Have I been disappointed in my marriage? Yeah. And I think it's because he's done something wrong as far as I'm concerned. So usually when I'm disappointed. Um, and I think for me, it's usually been about if I feel, and again, this is my own feeling and my own perception, that he hasn't taken my back. He didn't take my back on, at certain instances, or, I feel like, oh, okay, you didn't take my back there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's disappointing because you feel, sometimes you feel, okay, no matter what, you should just get me. You should take my back.
Yeah.
You should take my side.
Yeah.
But after so many years, I mean, there's certain things about each other that we're still learning. Like Doc said earlier, this thing is a school. We never stop learning.
Yeah.
Because we keep changing as well.
Yeah.
So how do I deal with it? Well, I go back and we have a conversation. Like I said, I think I said it in our session, I can't remember. But we've now sort of like we try to take ourselves for coffee and have something else there. But we go to a cafe and we have a conversation. And I try to understand, why he may not have taken my back. And there are times when it's my perception that he didn't take my back, he didn't get my back, he didn't side me. But when he explains his own perspective and where he was coming from, it then makes sense.
Okay.
So I think a lot of these times when we're disappointed, we need to talk it through. We need to not just go away with our own assumptions and let that be what's the word I'm looking for? Let that not be the final answer. We need to seek, because we can't read each other's minds.
No.
So I need to express my disappointment and allow him to explain his perception. And sometimes I still don't agree. But again, when you ask us one word for marriage, my own is commitment. We move.
I love
We
that.
move. It's not the end of the world. We have gaps, and this is where grace has to come in. So that's what I said.
I think for me, just leveraging off what Detola said when you asked us one word for marriage, and I said understanding. And the reason being is that, like I said in the earlier segment, the fact that I mean, when I say I truly entered my marriage thinking myself and Folola will not argue, and I shared in the last session that I don't do conflicts. My background, we ran away from conflict, so I was going into that marriage expecting, no conflict, we'll always be happy. And not knowing that I was actually putting so much pressure on my wife to try and make me happy. So I was relying on my wife making me happy, not understanding that, look, you're putting too much pressure on somebody to make you happy. You need to find out how you can be happy for yourself. And I always say this thing, and people think I'm saying it to big up Jesus House, but Jesus House has been a blessing because, like I said, without Jesus House, I don't think I'll be in my marriage. And
So
by reading
Jesus House
scripture,
is your local church, I presume.
local church, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's listen, Jesus House. Big up Jesus House. Anyway, let me continue. So, thank God for the scripture. I came across this scripture quite early about David returning from the battle at Ziklag, and they wanted to stone him. His family wanted to stone him. His best friends wanted to stone him. But there's a phrase at the end of it that says, "But David strengthened himself in the Lord." And I've taken that scripture literally, that the only person that can give me the joy that I need is God. And I should not put any pressure on anybody, even my children, that the fact that they're miserable, there's a reason why. And for me, strengthen myself in the Lord so that I can make my wife happy, so that I can make my children happy. It shouldn't be the opposite. I shouldn't be putting pressure on them to make me happy. So that's my own story.
Thank you very much.
Strengthen Ade Ojomo in the Lord.
Doc.
I think the whole concept or essence of expectations, like I think it was Detola that said, is expectations are purely assumptions. There are things that you assume will exist when you get into a situation. And for as long as there are assumptions, you should be ready to be disappointed in some instances. I think now hindsight is 2020, like they say. We know better now. But like you rightly asked the question, we came into marriages with expectations. I was laughing when Ade was speaking earlier because one of my expectations too was that my marriage was going to be free of stress and arguments. And all that was because growing up, I had loads of friends. I never fought with any of my friends. We didn't have arguments. I didn't fight anybody throughout university, for that matter. I grew up, I never saw my parents fight. So you can imagine I came into marriage and then we started arguing.
You never saw it, doesn't mean that they didn't.
Yeah, of course, I know that. But I mean, those things kind of shape your expectations. So you can imagine you come into marriage and you start arguing, you start arguing. I've shared this with the men, by the way, in our men's mentoring, one of our meetings, that there was after a while, I think it was the first year of marriage when we always arguing, we was quarreling. So I never forget. I said to my wife, I said, I was never like this until I met you. And and then the Holy Spirit quietly whispered to me and said, it's not true. It was always inside of you. So I think expectations are great, but they're just assumptions. And the cure, and my advice, I think I said this last week, is that particularly for newly married persons, sit down and discuss your expectations. These are the things, so that you put all the assumptions, and then the ones that are false assumptions can be laid to bed.
Yeah.
Don't even expect. So to answer this second question, I think for me, it's not even so much disappointment as much as, like I said, you come into marriage, you have expectations that this is what your wife is going to do, this is what your wife is going to do. I'll never forget, it was one of the couples weekends away organized by Jesus House, my local church, when the late Pastor Ife, she was speaking then, and she said something that just changed my mindset completely. And this whole thing about expectations, that I don't know if there anybody here who might have been there many years ago when she used the analogy of the knife and the fork, and how, when you're eating a steak, that the knife has its role, the fork has its role in terms of what they do.
Yeah.
And then she made this profound statement that just changed me completely. She said, whatever you're able to do, you do. Stop expecting from the other person. You just do what you're able to do.
Yeah.
That changed it for me completely.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one little thing too. I also wanted to just say, when you think about disappointments, I think one thing that brings about this the disappointments in that sense is maybe a lack of understanding. And I remember one particular scenario. This was some time back when Debussy always got that feeling that anytime she was saying things in public, that I always seemed to have a different view. So I wasn't backing what she would say, and all that. And I used to think that no, it's a discussion. We're just, we're flowing with, and all that stuff. But then along the way, I realized that this thing is actually now getting deeper than what it needs to be. And for me, I had to step back and actually try and understand that area of her, that part of her. And so I now realize that if you didn't agree with some things and all that, the best place to do it for us was when we're driving home in the car or when we're at home. That this thing that you said, yeah, I'm not 100% on that, that this is my thinking and all that. And I tend to, maybe in those kind of conversations, I'm a bit quiet and all that. But one thing I just wanted to say this, Doc touched on this, and that's that for those who aren't married or those who are in relationships at the moment, that 6 months, 1 year, 2 years that you guys are courting, it needs to be a bit more than the lovey-dovey stuff. You need to get down to the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I like, for me, what I say is that, look, say it now. Even if he or she doesn't agree, they at least have an idea of what's on your mind. You understand? So it's not as if, so the person goes away and they know that after that discussion, I don't think this is the person I even want to marry any longer. You know, it happens. No, it happens. It happens. But so what I'd say is that, you know, before, there's always that time before. Don't spend that time, you know, in a positive way. Get to know each other, you know, the best you can. I'm not saying even when you do that, you're still going to get into marriage and, you know, a lot of things are going to be different. But at least try and use that time in a way that's positive.
Thank you very much. Akin and Detola, you actually talked about he's got my back, she's got my back, which leads me to the next question. So the question that was sent in was, should a man prioritize his mother over his wife? Or I guess it could be vice versa. Should a woman prioritize her family or whatever over her family, over her husband rather? Okay. No, I don't think it should. But in some marriages, it's a problem. Some marriages have that challenge where the man is prioritizing either his family. In fact, wasn't it last week or when was it that we had a question? Oh no, I don't think we actually talked about it. I can't remember now. Where someone asked, did we, Desala, we didn't talk about it. When someone said the question I was sent in, that the husband had a bank account, a joint bank account with his sister, and he didn't even have a joint account with her, the wife. So yeah, in some marriages, that's a problem.
Sorry, can I speak, please?
Yes.
My husband is very close with his family. I call them the mafia, the mafiosos. They are very, very close. I came from daddy, mommy, two children.
Okay.
Husband came from cousins and families, and they're rather close. So I remember when I got married, we had problems with family, and I count myself as formidable. So I thought I'm going to show all these people in this. So I proceeded to start showing them, and I thought he didn't have my back. And I remember one day I was praying, and God said, "Did you even ask me for strategy? Are you even going about it the way I even told you to? Now you have won this battle in your mind, and you are bloody, and there are carcasses on the floor. Ask me, and I'll teach you what you need to do." And I kid you not, I prayed, and God spoke to me. Yes, for those that are Christians, sorry, I prayed about it, and the wisdom that it could only have come from God in how to speak, in how to carry myself, in how to make sure I'm being listened to, in how to have boundary lines with family. And I found out that I thought my husband didn't have my back, but he didn't have the tools because he came from that particular family. So he didn't have the tools to have boundary lines with them. But because I had the boundaries, and thank God for the wisdom of God, by praying about it, we were able to come together as one relating to issues or, matters concerning family. I just said that to say, for Christians, prayer, and then for those that are non-Christians, having the conversation with your spouse. I don't know about the one about joint account with sister, but I know that, having those conversations to be vulnerable enough to say, this is hurting me and I don't like it. I think most of us don't like being vulnerable, to say, this is where I'm hurting, and I would really appreciate if keep your account to your sister, but have another on me. If you can't do without it, then, have a joint account with me as well. But I think that having that conversation helps. And if you're a Christian, I kid you not, praying, there's nothing that, prayer can do, to be honest with you. So that's my take on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just it. And I don't have any problems anymore because I'm just using wisdom to kill them with kindness. But if you're not a Christian, then by all means, just, have that conversation, be vulnerable. I think people find it hard to be very vulnerable as to where they're hurting, not wanting to be shut down and all that. And if you've spoken about it, go and see a therapist or someone like, an expert or someone who you both respect and who's like a mentor or someone that you both and have a conversation about. But I think talking about it and prayer also works for me anyways.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tumi. Anyone else wants to chip in?
I think at times also just being humble. If I look back, Davis and her family are tight. I think it would have been dumb for me to come in and think that, look, now you're in love with me, forget the family. You understand? So I'm looking at her from afar and I see how she relates with her family. So my thinking is that I need to get to know these people somehow. You know. So I think there's that part where even it's almost like you make that conscious decision that okay, and vice versa. Like I'm very tight with my family. There's that thing where wisdom. It's a bit of wisdom to find out to try and get to know. Is it siblings? If it's a sibling level, if it's just try and with the wisdom of God, just try and weave that thing. So I like what Tumi said a lot. That there's always a way. See, when you're being brought into somebody's life, I always get the feeling that all the tools required to be the success you need to be are within you. It's always it's always how to bring those tools out and to actually use them and all that. So I always look at it that so when I met DBC and I met her, I always had in my mind that somehow I needed to get to know her people.
Okay.
But the knowing how to do it was always the issue. And that's where, tapping into God was a big thing to give you insights and, a way forward.
Okay. There's a question, and I know most of us are Christians, but there's a question, and the question is, what do you do if you're not married but live together? Do all these ideas work? And remember, we don't judge here.
Yeah,
And this is a data, but
absolutely.
we don't judge.
Yeah,
We don't know why
absolutely.
yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. I think the starting point um, for the person who asked the question is that you make decisions based on the level of your knowledge and revelation. I think somebody talked about that earlier on. So, as a Christian, you're making decisions based on your knowledge of God, the principles of God, and all that. If you haven't yet come into that relationship, I suppose I don't, let me use the word carefully. You are bound by what you know, what you feel is right or wrong. And I would start by saying that as much as is possible, that if you're able to imbibe some of the principles and ideas that we've mentioned, to do so. I mean, for a Christian, for example, the concept of living together when you're not married in itself challenges the whole Christian concept, because the danger is that some things are happening in that relationship that should not be happening if you're not married. But if you just said in terms of the principles, I would certainly say that the principles should apply whether you're a Christian or not, as much as you're able to. It's to the extent to which you agree with and receive those revelations. So that would be my question. I think, yeah, we're talking about principles. If you agree with them, then please apply them to your circumstances. I think because, well, again, this is speaking as a Christian, that because God is the one that created marriage and he gave us those guidelines and principles to run marriage, I think whether you believe or not, as to the extent that you can, to apply those principles, that would be my response.
Thank you very much.
I can I just say one thing? I totally agree, and I think I've heard one a guy he's a famous pastor who is also a comedian, and his ministry is about marriage. He does this laugh your way to a better marriage, and he made an analogy to that there are people in marriages, there are people in relationships, even friends, you know, sibling relationship. There's some principles of relationship that all these psychological or philosophical, they are all from the Bible. Psychology is all from the Bible. All those principles, anyone who follows them will benefit from it. His analogy was like gravity applies to everybody, whether you're a Christian or not. if you fall, get on the roof, you're going to come downwards, not upwards, because the law of gravity is there. So God has set some laws into place. And because, like Doc said, he created every one of, if we follow those principles, whether you're a Christian or not, you reap the, and that's why you reap the benefit. And that's why some marriages are not, they're not Christians, yet they have really good marriages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good because they're following the principles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is mainly for the men. What silent pressures do you men carry, or do men, or let's say husbands, often carry that are not always visible or acknowledged? What are the things that you silent things that you carry, the pressures you face that are not always visible? Gentlemen.
Silent pressure.
That's why there's silent pressures. No, I think I'll go. I think there's always that part where you don't want to disappoint. You want to be who they're looking up to you to be.
Okay.
You know, you're like, I can't do this thing, but how do I tell them that I can't? And this is not just with your wife, it's also with the kids. And all that. So you can imagine a time when well, for us, there was a time when the kids were in private school and all that, and I lost my job, and Debbie was just still she was working, but anyway, we had school fees to pay, and for private school fees, I think you used to pay them like yearly or bi-yearly or something like that, and all that, and it got to a stage where we didn't have the money to pay. So there I was thinking, hey, what do you do? And I was like, Lord, what do we do? Are we going to pull these kids out of school? But then we went back and it was like, well, God, you're the one who told us to put these guys in this school. Something has to happen. So that whole thing was playing around in my head. I didn't even say I didn't tell David some of these things, but all that was playing in my head. But one day I just got up and I said, well, let's, when we had the discussion, I was like, well, one thing we know is that they're not leaving the school. So once that was in place, everything was now built on that. And one day, I mean, me and David discussed it, and I said, I'm going to go in and see the bursar, and what we'll do is that I'll give them a plan, which normally it didn't look like they were going to accept because they weren't doing that in that school. But I went there and I told them what I intended to do. And the lady said, okay, that's going to be tough, but let me run it by the board of trustees. And she went and ran it by them. And when she came back, it was accepted. So one thing that taught me was like, you know, I've been making this thing bigger than what it was. That so many times, and I think that's one thing that the enemy tries to do. You know, when you keep that thing within, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, such that you're like, how do I break this thing down? Until one day you go crazy. But you know, all I think is that yeah, so that was one area. So I think there's that area where you don't want to disappoint. There are a few other areas, but I'll leave that for the other guys to talk about.
Okay, gentlemen.
I think mine is similar to what Akin said as well. 18 lost my contract. I think I spoke about it last week.
Yeah.
18 months, no working, kids in private school, single income coming in, and I'm thinking, wow, what am I going to do about this? I don't want to disappoint anyone. I don't want the kids taken out of private school. I want to be able to provide for my wife and, you know, da. And similar to what Akin said, Miles Monroe came and I literally took one of his, well, I don't know whether Miles Monroe was advising me, but he said, never transfer fear to your family, you transfer faith. I took it, on hindsight, and I probably took it the wrong way because you transfer faith, but when you're transferring faith, it means you talk to your wife as well and tell her what the issue is, and then you pray about it. But I literally took that faith on my own, joined all the prayer teams in Jesus' house at that point in time. People were like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just here to pray, but they didn't know what was going on in my mind. So on hindsight now, I totally agree with Akin, regardless of the situation that's going on. because I'm looking back and saying maybe if I told my wife earlier, who knows? Maybe, maybe she can bring another perspective of how we can resolve the issue.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember when I was sharing the testimony at Fopa Enife, then my daughters came to me and said, "But Daddy, you didn't tell us about this. And we were just asking you for things and you were providing, food was in the house, we're still going to school, no one, stuff like that." And I said, because, I didn't want you guys to have so much pressure. But as Akin said, I think the moral and the lesson is that share everything, everything should, excuse me, everything should be shared. You can't compartmentalize certain things. So yeah.
I guess also it may depend on how you feel the woman will be able to handle it. I
I
guess,
totally agree.
yeah,
I think the lesson for me was, yeah, I should have asked God to teach me on how to communicate the issue to my wife.
yeah,
Totally neglecting her was, on hindsight, I don't think that should have been done. But at the end of the day, we thank God for where we are now. He took us out of that depression and that downhill. But I think next time, I mean, now I try and involve my wife in everything, regardless. I
yeah.
just think,
Yeah. And before you answer, Doc, yeah, I just seen Joy's comment. It's the thing about telling men to man up, you can handle it. But as Akin's story shows, that help is available when we're vulnerable. And both you both said the same thing because you just never can tell. And it might even be the two of you coming together to pray about this situation that might help. Okay, Doc.
I think for me it's similar, but just a slightly different use of word. And just listening to Aki and Ade, I think it's a man thing generally. So it's not even so much, I wouldn't use the word disappoint. I think it's more wanting to get it right for your family, wanting to protect your family. Those are the silent pressures. And I would imagine that it's similar for most men, where you just want to protect your family. And that's what leads to the silent pressure, because in wanting to protect, it's almost like you're now raising your hands to, so you're shielding your family from these challenges that you're going through. You don't want them to feel the impact of it. Unfortunately, like we've all learned, and like both Aki and Ade have said, um, you're carrying too much on your head, and there's only so much that a person can carry. Of course, one of the big prevalent challenges is always to do with money, financial difficulties, and stuff like that. And it would sound like we're all similar in the way we've responded to our financial challenges. As Ade and Akin were talking, I remember the period where the children were in school as well, and all those letters,
Home
the
time.
sorry?
Is it home time or what they call it? I
Term
can't
time, yeah. Term time. Is it term
remember.
time?
I can't remember.
The letters would come, the boss's letters would come. I would, as soon, in fact, I anticipated the postman coming. As soon as the postman came, I quickly scooped up the letters because I just didn't want my wife to see all the issues that was happening, the telephone calls to the bosses,
Mm.
and all these challenges. But I think one of the things that taught me a lesson was I'll never forget when I noticed that there were certain times of the month my wife would go very quiet and she would become moody. And I used to think it was the time of the month, the menstrual, what you call it, until I connected the dot that she used to go moody around the time when the letters were coming from the schools demanding school fees. So there was thinking that she didn't realize what was going on, but she knew what was going on all along. And I had been trying to protect, the silent pressures. Whereas the moment I realized and we started to talk about it, we started to carry the burden together. And it made a lot of difference. And God saw us through. So I think, yeah, those would be not so much not wanting to disappoint as much as wanting to protect your family.
Mm.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing.
I'll just drop this one because I just think I should, but I'll make it very, very brief. And that's also speaking to the chat. Well, a while back, and the area of sexual disappointments. And this is on the guy's side mainly, where you just realize that the whole act doesn't last more than 5 minutes. You understand? So what now happened was like he kind of like backed off, and he was kind of like anytime it came to like let's get it on and all that, he just went cold and disappeared.
Yeah.
And all that. But I won't go into the nitty-gritty, but what I'll say is that it always maybe at times maybe for us as guys, sometimes maybe we just don't know how much our wives can actually take. We assume we do, but we actually don't.
Yeah.
And all that. And in the midst of that alone, you realize how, I mean, this guy we're talking about is a king now. But anyway, it's all good.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I actually agree with you. You don't know how strong the women are, and we are strong, if you know what I mean. There's a lot more we can handle than most men think we can. So,
I
okay,
agree.
next question. I'm reading some of it.
There you go.
I'm not reading some of these comments. Okay, for those who are probably getting married just or recently married and all of that, what does becoming one mean to, or what did it mean to you beyond the wedding day? Becoming one. And maybe I should ask the next question. No, okay, let's answer that first. What does becoming one mean to you? Uju.
I don't have a very what's the word long-term view of this. I think maybe this one should go to Detola. For me, when I was getting married, becoming one was that marriage, the wedding day. To be honest, I wasn't seeing beyond the wedding day because I had been waiting to get married for so long. And for people who I didn't get married in my 20s. And so every year added a layer of expectation. I was the guru of meals and booms. So those expectations continued to be heightened. And so I didn't really think about beyond that day. For me, that was the becoming one. Obviously, since then, we've heard quite a lot about what it means to become one. And it's a journey that I don't know that we totally get to from my view, but it's also a journey that it's the approach that's important. And so being prepared for the approach is something that is worth investing in. I always say that if I were to do it again, knowing myself and knowing how when you do get married, not as young as others do, you're already formed in certain things. So that opportunity to grow with that person through certain formative years that are important has been taken away from you. So you've already done it. And now it's really tough. And I don't know how much the men realize this. It's really tough to reverse. Do you see what I mean? It's tougher than people think. They expect, oh, it just comes, in your own right. You've grown through a season where it's like raising a child, and they get to a certain age and you want them, okay, go back. So for me, I would say, and I know I've gone off topic a bit, becoming one, you need identify the help that you need and get it. The approach is very important. If I were to do it again, the same way that I say this all the time, and it sounds like a cliche, the same way I go to the doctors for checkup, is the same way that I would approach marriage, particularly the later that you leave it. And I would do the same for men as well, particularly men who've been married more than once, because I also got married. And to be vulnerable here, I got married to someone who had been married before. So we both approached it from a point of view of we know it all, recipe for disaster. And so that mindset, for me, is what is important. It requires an unlearning that we're not used to. And then before you build onto a new thing, that's what I would talk about becoming one. So I don't know what it is. For some people, it's finances. For some people, I've kept quiet most of this call because mine is a little different. But yeah, the things that I went through in the way that I went through them, had I had help, I probably would not have been able to do that. And that help, it depends on you. So the approach is important.
I was just going to say, thank you, Uju. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I was just going to say, is it that you didn't have help or you didn't go to seek help?
I talked about the mindset, and can you hear me? because
Yes.
I've switched in my head. Yeah, I talked about the mindset. It was also a question of, so it's a bit of both. It's not knowing what you don't know. And
Okay.
also the situation was not conducive. I was a leader in church. My husband was a leader in church. So there's a certain assumptions that come from being leaders that you should know certain things. And then having avenues to seek those help, when you're in a certain age, was also a little bit of a different thing. And there was a little bit of an anomaly. People expected you to know certain things that you didn't know that you didn't know.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds really funny, right? Yeah,
But thank you so much. Yeah, I totally agree with you about the mindset. Thank you so much, Uju. Who wants to go chip in?
Okay. I think mine will be quick. I think for me, it says the two shall become one. Now the question is, when are they going to be one? It could be the wedding day, it could be 10 years later. So, to me, I think it's just a journey of becoming one.
Mm.
Um, do you actually become one? I mean, but I think it's the journey trying to become one, shall become one. For me, I think it's a journey.
Thank you. Detola.
Uju said everything. I think my thinking about becoming one when I got married is what I said earlier. It was all very miserable, very similar to what Uju said. No different. I just thought it was, yeah, would just be like one soul thinking alike. You know my mind, I'll know your mind, and all that sort of thing. We didn't have marriage counseling, premarital anything in those days. My uncle, who was also my husband, Olu's principal in secondary school, married us. So we had 15 minutes of, oh, my daughter and my son are getting married. Well done, congratulations. This is the date. That was it. But I think as both of us started to go for marriage courses, I think we went for our first marriage course 2 years into marriage. I mean, I have to say, glory to God, by the grace of God. I don't know what it was. Not that we didn't argue or we didn't fight, but I always say this, that we always joke that it felt like we were on honeymoon for like 5 years, as in like we just got married in those times, despite the fact that we didn't have. But I think we came from a Bible believing church that taught us a lot about marriage. So as singles, we heard a lot about how to conduct yourself in marriage, all this stuff about finances, all of it, because it was so talked about. It was a very young church. And I think that was actually probably our own premarital classes that we were undertaking. But I think, yeah, the journey of becoming one is that lifelong journey that Doc talked about. That when he said what he did. Sorry, I forgot the question, but basically it's a school where you learn and you learn and you learn until you depart, until death do you part. I don't think and I think for me, the attitude and the mindset is for each of us to be striving for that, and have that us mindset, operating in an us paradigm. I'm married now. It can't be about me. And, it has to be us. It has to be we in everything.
Yeah.
In everything. So, yeah. And again, it's a journey. And the interesting thing is, and I think this is where God, pulled a joke on us. Because I think we are, sorry, this may sound a little bit heavy, but we all came into this world on our own. Yeah. And we're going to depart this world on our own. And we're going to meet our maker. This journey in this world and the whole marriage thing, I think it's part of God's calling on our lives. And it's part of us getting to that maturity, getting to be like Jesus, getting to where God wants us to be. And he uses marriage, uses our spouses, usually the closest people to us, to help us. And it makes it, I think in a sense, if we thinking about it more and more, I think about that a lot. It kind of makes me more willing in myself to hear hard things that maybe I might be doing things that is not about the us paradigm, that is not working towards the us paradigm. I mean, it's only my husband that will probably point it out to me. And it's up to me to then decide whether I want to listen and operate in that us paradigm, or I want to go that way. And the problem is when we start going off the us paradigm, initially it's not noticeable, because when you're diverting from a straight line, the angle is usually tiny. And then until you get to a point where you see, ooh, I think we just need that daily check that, am I operating in an us paradigm here? Yeah, it's a journey.
Thank you. Thank you so
Sorry,
much.
can I add to that? Not add to it, but I think I want to give a different take, and somebody has rightly surmised it in the chat. I would say it's the relearning, unlearning, evolving, because if you don't do that, you stagnate and die. So I think for me, it's don't look for someone to complete you. I don't think entry marriage and waiting for someone else to come and complete you is the right thing to do. I think looking onto God, working on ourselves, being open to learning from somebody else is what we get from a marriage.
Yeah.
So if some people go into marriage thinking, this person completes me, he's my half, I'm your half, we come together to make one, hell to the no. So I think you just work on yourself, seek God. Because even in prayer, my husband used to think we had to pray together all the time. When we pray together, but I always have to have my quiet time. Like you said, Detola, you can't die with your spouse. You're going to die on your own. So, be open to learning, relearning, evolving, and hopefully the other party does that as well. And then together, that combined I think, is a recipe for success. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Tumi.
So my tiny contribution, two things. I think if we're really, really honest with ourselves, I'm not sure many people come into marriage thinking about becoming one. And the reason why I say that is even from the whole concept of having expectations. The whole essence of coming to marriage with expectations is a very one-sided concept, a very, allow me to use the word selfish context, because we come into marriage thinking about what we want, our expectations. And for me, that is the opposite of the oneness spectrum. Um, so you come into marriage, this is what you're expecting, this is what, and all of that. But having come into marriage, and particularly from a Christian point of view, you are now then challenged with this biblical concept of oneness. So to answer your question, that what does oneness mean? And I prefaced with what I said to confess that, one didn't come into marriage with that, the whole thought of oneness in one's mind. But my definition of oneness, what it would mean to me, is where there's that complete reorientation where you are now thinking more about the other person than yourself. I think it's that ability to always, think about what makes the other person happy, and the other person is thinking about what makes the other person. I think it's that journey that starts to bring you together. Is it easy? Absolutely not. And both Uju and Detola and Tumi have said you've been formed over 20 years, 25 years, 30 years in certain ways. You've lived by yourself. And now you have another human being in your life that you have to think for and think about. It requires a lot of unlearning. But I think the answer to the question is an other person mindedness. That's oneness. That's one becoming one. What it means for me, that you're thinking for the other person, you're living for the other person. And if the other person is doing the same, fantastic. The challenge is we're often not doing it together. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, folks. We've got a few minutes left. We've got two questions. First question I want to, no, actually, not to you guys. If you've got, especially if you're a single person, if you've got a burning question that you want to ask the panel, please put it in the chat box. But for the panel, what advice would you give someone who is looking to get married soon, believing God that one day they will get married? What kind of advice would you give to them? And this kind one, especially with regards to expectations, that will I be able to live up to anyone's expectations, those kind of things. What advice would you give to them? That's the first one. Yes, Tumi, go ahead.
I think for me, it will be leave your house.
Leave your house so that you can be found.
Leave your house, number one. And I think also, I think it's easy to say it from a married perspective, but if I was to do it again, enjoy your life. I think that confidence is very attractive. Knowing who you are is an attractive thing. So you find people, we've been waiting, and they're just like, so when it comes, I'll do it. When the guy comes, and then life is just passing by. So enjoy your own company, make your life richer. If it's to get another language, travel if you can. If you can't go out, meet with friends, as in make sure your life is rich. I would say so. Leave your house, make sure your life is rich. And I had something else, but I've forgotten it. But I think for me, that's what it is. Leave your house, make sure your life is rich, because that is so attractive to people. And be expectant. I think I'll say be expectant. And oh yes, if you do meet the guy, make sure you see him in his natural habitat. That's when maybe around friends and family, so you can see the dynamic of the home and decide whether or not you want to run or you want to stay there. Because that's how you know who people really are, when you see them at home where they're comfortable. So when you do meet them, but before then, leave your house and enjoy your life. Do all the things you are supposed to wait in.
Okay, before you guys go, I just remembered maybe another question. This is for both men and women. Another question you should ask before you get married: are you married, or does someone believe that they're married to you? So, and then do you have a baby mama?
That was the first thing. The conversations. Please, you can never have too many questions and conversations and ask as many questions and have all these conversations about expectations, like Pastor Shola said. As in, that way you know that you're the smart limits, whether you're running, you're staying, those conversations. So leave your house.
And it could
Enjoy
even
your
be
life.
something as simple as how do you raise our kids? Some people might say, oh, I want their kids to go to private school. Some people might say, no, it's state school that they're going to go to. Those kind of conversations, the church you go to, those are conversations that you should have before you get married. Okay. Anyone else wants to chip in?
If I was to take from the different aspects from everybody and just summarize it, I think two become one is we both enter marriages as individuals trying to become one, but most importantly, we need to learn to run our races. We all have individual races, but that's not the top part, because I need to learn how to run my own race, not run Funola's race, but help her to complete,
Yes,
and vice versa.
Yeah.
And be willing for her to help you run your own race as well, because it's both ways. Yeah. The thing, for me, it's very much around, one of the spin-off from this Hangout Cafe was me starting a group for women over 40s who are believing God or just waiting. Just basically, one of the things I learned was live your life fully. I was very Milton Boom, but also very, I don't know, socialized in the custom which I grew up in. So, the man, your money is our money, my money is my money. So that's how I grew up. It was like the man did it. I didn't hear my parents. Like I said, I had all these expectations from Milton Boom and from social things. So, but one thing I always kept waiting to do was to live life unconsciously. My sister is not like that, so I don't know where that. But so the name of the group is called Living Fully. Live your life fully. Nothing is promised you, but today God has given you. You have to live it fully. Of course, and purposefully is fully and everything. So yes, I would say get out, live your life fully, have your own ecosystem. You will need your support group as well, and then particularly be willing. Is that mindset thing? You're going to have to unlearn things as you go along, drop things. But I think also for me, what is critical is red flags are important. The Holy Spirit helps us with red flags. There's certain boundaries. And the later you get married, the more important it is. So those conversations, you need to have them and have them very early. You have them very early. There's nobody's there at the time waster. Move on. I'm sorry, but those are for me, they're very critical things. So I could go on and on, but let me share the other things. But in terms of your faith, and you people have to agree on your faith. Basic things you expect from Christians. Are we going to tithe? People ask, oh, isn't that a foregone conclusion? No, everything is on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Uju. So important.
I-
And please, she runs this, as she said, she runs this group called Living Fully, and they meet at least once a month and they have events. So would you maybe put your details in the chat box so if people want to join, especially if you're over 40. Gentlemen or Detola, do you guys want something?
yeah,
Do you have
I'll
something?
say something.
No, okay, I'll say something after Aki.
Okay,
You
okay.
sure?
Okay,
Okay.
go, ladies
All
first.
right.
Okay. Actually, okay.
Go for
Detola.
it,
No,
please.
just one thing. So, agree with what everyone said. I think part of preparation. So you're also preparing. You're living fully, but if you wanted to go into marriage, man and woman, you've got to prepare.
Yeah,
And part of that preparation is, like we said, someone said in the chat, you want to be wholesome, you want to heal. If you've been in a first marriage, you want to make sure you're not taking
baggage.
same person going into the second marriage. Often people think, oh, the fault is the other person, but you're still the same person in that previous marriage, and it takes two going into second marriage. If you're single, you've never married, how do you position yourself? Prepare. The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, not he who finds a single person.
Yeah.
You're a wife, so learn practically, talk to people, pray. I mean, I'm making an assumption that that's part of it. And that church I was talking about where I grew up, I became a Christian at 16 or something like that. I gave my life. And they were so big on praying about who you were going to marry, as in praying and fasting. So pray. Let God guide you. Let God open your eyes, men, to see the person. Women, let God guide you and position you and put you where you should be so that you are found by the person that God wants you to be found. So I just wanted to bring that angle to it.
Before you, Akin, sorry, before you go on, let me just for everyone that's online, please can you put in the comment chat box the kind of topics you would like us to discuss at Hangout Cafe. So whilst we're talking, before we round up, just put the kind of future topics you like us to talk about in Hangout Cafe. Akin, please go on.
Yeah, well, it's all been said now, but I'll just say, and I'll use the word try. I said things I listed, but try your best to get to know the person you want to marry. Consciously, intentionally try and get to know that person. Ask questions that are embarrassing. Ask questions that, don't assume anything. Like I said, you're not going to get to know everything, but anything that comes to mind, let it go, let it go. Another thing I put down was like, try as best as possible to be you,
Okay.
be yourself.
Yeah.
Let the person they're seeing, let it be the real you. Because at times also when you speak to some guy or when you're speaking with some couples, there's that thing of like, he's a bit different and all that. And by the time they tell you when they talk about their courtship and all that, flowers today, cards tomorrow, this, that, and all that, dinner, you realize that actually it wasn't not too much, substance was inbuilt during that period. I know we said a lot about expectations. Personally, I'd say come into um come into marriage with expectations, but with expectations that aren't too selfish.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Now, Ade and Doc, I know you haven't said anything, but instead of answering that question, let me give you another question, especially based on what Akin's just said. The question was, is it selfish to expect love and respect in marriage? That's a question that's just been asked. Is it selfish to expect love and respect in marriage?
No, it's not selfish because first of all, from human perspective, we're all human beings, and these are human needs. In fact, a marriage that is devoid of love and respect is no marriage at all. So I don't think it's selfish to. I think what one should be doing is not just expecting it, but be prepared to give it to the other person so that it works the way God expects it. I think what would make it selfish is when you go into expecting it, but you're not giving. That then doesn't make any sense at all. So But please, I beg you, please let me just say a quick thing about the previous thing about um, advice to people. It's really directed to men, to young men particularly, because it would seem like women generally are more, they look forward to, they're more expectant to marry as compared to young men. I find too many young men now who, it's like they're postponing it, they're not thinking about it, and all that. They're very lackadaisical in that. And my advice to a young man who is not married is you've got to be intentional about it because marriage is your future. The Bible, it's like you're not complete without your wife. It's when you find a wife that you then become and you can together fulfill your purpose. I find too many young men that are saying, when you ask them, what's the plan of a marriage? They're saying, oh, I want to make money first. I'm saying, no, 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 no. It's actually the other way around. Find a wife, you come together, and then you build a future together. Sorry, I needed
Thank
to.
you. No, that's fine. That's fine.
Sorry,
Um,
can I add something to that from Doc's perspective? Sorry,
yeah,
host.
yeah.
Young women. I think there's something about there's a reason. It's not always the case, but I think some of our young men are actually afraid and scared of the responsibility, usually financially, that they have to carry to support our young women because some of our young women have some expectations that we probably need to address. So same way as men are thinking, the young men are thinking, well, I want to go make money fast. The young women at that age, there's some certain things they um portray, the way they portray themselves, like, man, how am I going to afford to keep or to support this woman? Or expectations around, for example, engagement rings, where women expect that a man, or some women expect that a man would have to buy her a diamond ring that is worth 2.5 times his salary. And this is rampant in this young generation. How many young men are going to be able to? So I've talked to so many young men, and that is one of the issues. So as we speak to the young men, we should also speak to the young women that actually, my own personal view, this is not anything in scripture, but my personal view is that it's actually beautiful when you build together, when you start young and you do it together. And that money, make it together. So if you have to go buy £100 ring, it's not about the price of all of that. So yeah. Thank you.
So the final question is, in today's world, with everything else that's going on, how do you intentionally protect or strengthen your marriage? So how do you intentionally protect and strengthen your marriage in today's world? Because even when you look at the statistics, you can say in the world it's 50-50, but even in amongst Christian marriages, the divorce rate is still high. So how do you intentionally protect and strengthen your marriages? Go on, Adi.
I think Doc answered it earlier. I think as for a Christian, strength our marriage, we have only one standard that we have to adhere to. It's hard, but we just pray for the grace. It's the only way. I don't think there's any other way as a Christian. And as Doc also alluded, for those that are not Christians, there's certain, I don't know if it was Detola or Doc, but there's certain principles. Yeah, it was Detola, you're talking about laugh your way to marriage. Yeah.
Love your
So
way
it's,
to a better
yeah,
marriage.
even if you're not a Christian, there's certain principles that will make the marriage work. So that's what I would say.
Thank you very much.
I
Yeah.
was go- I was going to say there's nothing to add to that. Psalm 127, it talks about how do you build, there's only one foundation that you can build. The only way to a successful marriage for people who are Christians is based on God and a lot of it is interpreted differently, but God is our foundation and that is the bedrock. But I was going to ask you a question, Pastor Funke. There's something that has always resonated with me, and I would really love to ask the men. Most times, because we talked a lot about prayer here, most times there's almost every week there's a prayer meeting. a gathering of women to pray for their marriage and pray for their husbands. Have the men here been to any marriage thing that they're coming to pray for their wives, for,
Yes.
I would really love to understand that, because honestly, when me too, I came into marriage, I expected to see, prayer of a growing wife. Yeah, I ran. But I've never seen my husband get up to go on any prayer meeting specifically called by a man to pray for women. I'm very interested. And the men are the head of the homes, and everything. And so that's one. And then number two, how are the young men how are the young men here and other young men preparing other young men to marry? Because a lot of us, I have a burden to prepare other young women to marry, because the things I walked into, I would love to have people a little more prepared, if that makes sense. So how are the men here helping us to do that? And I come in peace. So,
It's a very, very good question, Uju.
No,
Very.
very good, Uju. But what flashed through my mind, and on a serious note, you're very right. It actually is a question that I'm going to go away with and just ponder. How come men don't actively, proactively pray for the marriages and all that? But what I was going to say seriously is that in the same way that you said, um, off the back of a hangout cafe session, God led you to start the group that you're doing. Perhaps what will happen is, by reason of your question, some of the men on this platform, not necessarily the speakers, but some of the men, maybe somebody will go away and start a group like that. But you're absolutely right. I think we should be focusing on how to help our men, young men, and prepare for marriage, and even those in marriage to pray for their marriages. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for that.
Anyone else before we go?
Sarah, I've forgotten the question again. I was actually going to. There was a
It was
response.
about strengthening. How do you
Oh,
intentionally
yes,
strengthen
yes,
your
yes, yes.
marriage? Yeah.
I think again, it's all been said. We just talked about the foundation and all that. But I think one thing I wanted to throw in before we go, because I saw some comments. I think we should intentionally focus on positive narratives rather than negative
Yeah. Yeah.
narratives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negativity that's going on that's unhealthy. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, maybe in one of the times when I was preaching. I had the experience of canceling two ladies on the same day. I know it wasn't coincidental. It was, yeah. Both of them had had bad experiences in their growing up with their parents' marriages. And one of them, I'll never forget, said she came away and thinking, I don't want to marry, I can never trust men, because of the experience of their parents. But the other person, who was even younger, came away and said, you know what? Having seen the way my parents' marriages are, I'm determined that my marriage will be better. And I think it's that mindset we should be encouraging, the positive rhetoric. The truth is that, I'm sorry, the person that said there are many miserable marriages, the truth is that there are many very good marriages.
Yeah.
So I think let's protect our minds from the negative rhetoric and focus on the positive. Can I just say one last thing, please? And Don, just as an example, on my medical school platform, with my classmates in medical school, most of us are Christians, so there's a lot of Christian what's it called. But there's one guy particularly who is not a Christian. Do you know he bombards the platform with anti-Christian rhetoric, always looking for anything to say that there's no God? And at some point, I just felt the Spirit of God say, look, protect yourself from this person's thing because it can poison your mind. So, yeah, that would be my contribution. Let's protect our
Thank you
mind.
so much, folks. You guys have been amazing. And even I've gotten some back comments saying, oh, they're enjoying the conversations and all of that. And Honestly, you guys are amazing. You're simply the best. And I think,
But Pastor Funke, do you know, there was one last thing I wanted to say. A lot of people talk about happy marriages. You know, happy is different. I think people learn to stay married. We know the foundation of happy marriage, but I think the one thing we were going to touch on, we didn't touch on, was comparison in marriage, you know. So that is another killer. But anyway, so
thank you
Pastor,
so much. You guys are all simply the best. So everyone that's joined us, thank you. God bless you,
Thank
and have a great weekend. Love you all.
Uh,
Thank you.
love you too.
Bye, everyone.